Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to our lunch club. I'm just going to give a few minutes for everybody to just come online. All right, let me start again. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our Circular Lunch Club, Circularity in the Manufacturing Sector, Rebuilding a Stronger South Africa Together. My name is Mark Lamani from Circular South Africa, and I'm also joined by my colleague Gabriella, who you heard just assisted me so kindly. In today's session, we are talking about remanufacturing, redesigning, and rethinking plastic waste with George van der Schyff from the Center of Regenerative Design and Collaboration. He will be sharing our CRDC solutions for all plastic waste. But before I hand over to George, I just want to give a short overview of our circular lunch clubs. So the Circular Lunch Club was really designed to honor and welcome the voices of our community. For if you're here for the first time, thank you so much for joining. We really want to hear your voice. And it came at a time where it was post-COVID and people had a lot of webinar fatigue. And we just wanted to create this short, bite-sized, interactive session where our partners and members can share their story and the great work that they do in the circular economy, as well as our community to ask questions and also share their journeys. So please feel free to later on to unmute and ask your questions and also share some insights that you have from the space. And of course, my name is Mark Lamani, joined by George van der Schyff from the Center of uh, Regenerative Design and Collaboration. So Circular South Africa was born in 2023 with the vision to amplify the potential and value of a just circular economy transition across South Africa. And we believe that the circular economy provides South Africa with a regenerative alternative that could be prevalent in all sectors. Guided by the fundamental principles, design out waste and pollution, keep products and materials at the highest value, regenerate regenerate natural systems, and one that we find that is very important here at CSA is benefit all members of society. So the circular economy provides a cross-sectoral systems approach that has opportunities across sectors should there be interconnectivity. And we believe that through getting that interconnectivity, there's a need for a multi-stakeholder collaboration for us to actually gain those opportunities from the circular economy in South Africa. And for the last few months, we've been having thematic months where we host many different sessions like these. And if you have missed any of the mining, human settlements, mobility, and energy sessions, you can get them at our YouTube channel. Even this one will be there. And please stay tuned for our water and agriculture session that will be coming up soon. We also have this illustration on manufacturing that was done with our partnership in partnership of CSIR, which is a jam-packed form that has a lot of information on the circular economy in the manufacturing space in South Africa. And to access this, you can get it at our Knowledge Hub on our website. And if you are not yet a member, please sign up and register as a member for free. And there's a lot more useful resources there for you. Just a little bit of insight before I hand over to George about the manufacturing sector in South Africa. The manufacturing sector uses 3% of the national water allocation. It also draws 52% of the national energy demand. And when I think about that, there's a need for alternative solutions from a perspective where manufacture then if the because South Africa we have load shedding, we also have power outages, and that puts a lot of strain on the manufacturer. Then they'll have to get alternative means to create energy, and that, of course, creates a ripple effect where the end user, the consumer, has to pay more for products. So, talking about solutions, I'm now going to hand over to George to talk about the solutions that they have at CRDC. Over to you, George. Stop sharing.
George, you're muted.
There we go.
Thanks, Gavin.
Thank you, Gabby. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Good. Okay, cool. I'll save everyone the mouthful of pronouncing our full name. We're known more widely as CRDC South Africa. I'm George van der Schyff. I'm the operations and supply chain manager based here in Cape Town. Yeah, so I'll just give you a short introduction to CRDC, the company, and our revolutionary eco-aggregate Resonate. And then I'll take you through some project examples and various ways yeah, we can impact the manufacturing sector, both from a waste and a regeneration perspective. Yeah, so CRDC South Africa was formed in, I think it was registered in 2019. The plant's been operational for just under 6 years. And we went from a pilot plant to a full-scale plant in 2023. And that was thanks to some CapEx funding from the likes of Polyco and the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. So, there we go. Okay, so yeah, I'll fly through a couple of slides because I think it's stuff most people know already, but what we're really trying to do is create appreciating value from plastic waste, especially the problematic waste where there's little to no solutions locally or globally. So yeah, there's many niches in the post-consumer and post-industrial plastic waste industry that, yeah, there's just no scalable solutions. And I'm sure many of you are aware of the problems we've got, not just in our oceans, but also in the industries, recycling and so on, where we've got pretty low recycling rates for certain types of plastic and other packaging materials, and then higher recycling rates for others, such as PET bottles. But you know, what happens to a PET bottle when, like you see on the screen, it's quite badly soiled or contaminated with other organic materials, and that can come to us, as you'll see further on. So yeah, I'm sure everyone's aware, and you've seen our waterways, you've seen our parks, you've seen our oceans. Yeah, just so much packaging and especially plastic that lands up in the environment for various reasons, but largely systemic reasons. So our product Resonate, we can accept all 7 types of plastic resins, to put it simply. You know, your numbers 1s and 2s and 3s are often quite widely recycled, but there are instances where they aren't. You know, for PET, for example, a lot of the rPET or recycled PET often can't go back into the system, or you've got food grade PET that can't. So we land up with, ironically, quite a lot of PET, but then also stuff that can't even go to landfill. There's a lot of medical waste that can come to us, and even things like car bumpers, certain forms of e-waste where the flame retardants or paints prohibited from being recycled or incinerated. Our process can take it. So yeah, so we take the plastic, we convert it into an eco-aggregate or a hybrid polymer eco-aggregate. And that then you'll see shortly after improves the concrete products that it goes into. So I'll just click through all of these, but we obviously receive the plastic, it gets shredded, gets 2 mineral additives added to it, which is our secret sauce, and then they get fed through a standard extruder that's used in plastic production. We did need to modify it considerably because we're sending various types of plastic through the extruders at once, which they're not actually set up to do. They might be able to do 2 maximum. Thereafter, the extruded materials are granulated into an eco-aggregate that then replaces the sand and stone mix in various concrete and asphalt products. I've just popped our value chain up on screen, but I won't go through it too much, but effectively, yeah, it can go into different hot and cold asphalt mixes, various wet and dry concrete products, as you'll see. Yeah, so you've got curbs, channels, standard bricks and blocks. And yeah, one of the benefits, especially for the construction industry, is that our aggregate, as you can see in the picture there, has got a nice open cell structure. So it really allows for the aggregate to really mechanically and chemically bond to the concrete and to the asphalt. So yeah, so you're getting, a stronger product in many ways. Just, yeah, some of the benefits. Won't go over these in too much detail, but yeah, from an engineering perspective, it increases the tensile and compressive strength in the products. It reduces the weight. So whether it's weight for transport or the load of the actual building, as you're going up floors. So if you need to move product up floors, or even as you're building up floors, it reduces the load. So all those have benefits for the construction and developmental process. Yeah, and then there's, it can work alongside many different innovative green building materials. Yeah, and then there's various SDGs that we help support. I mean, 12 of the 17. We obviously are a very good solution for EPR programs, because we are able to take in so many different types of plastics, and especially if they're mixed and if they're contaminated, or very, yeah, as I mentioned earlier, with different chemicals in them that our process can handle. So yeah, we working with different companies to help them get, net zero plastic to landfill. And yeah, it's looking very positive in in the feedstock sector. And yeah, and there's some projects here that I'll just slowly skip through, but obviously Resonate has been tested throughout the local concrete industry here in Cape Town and nationally, and obviously globally. Sorry, I forgot to mention, CRDC was founded in Costa Rica, with plants up in Pennsylvania, Mexico, and obviously South Africa being the 3 plants that went up. So it's been tested quite widely, locally and globally. And yeah, there's just these are some of our impact slides. So do a small time check, where we really try to break the impact of a project down. So you can see in the bottom line, how much total plastic was sequestered, and that equivalent in the likes of chip packets. And one of the other great metrics, I think it's a slide further on, but where we showcase how much Resonate is used in a project, and it also means that there's less natural aggregate getting mined. So it's really a regenerative product from both a reuse perspective and for saving what is becoming a scarce commodity globally and locally. So yeah, you can see we've projects in the waterfront, and some of the bigger developers are also adopting our product into their projects to improve Green Star ratings, and to also, of which they actually judged, quite interestingly enough, for pre and post construction on their project. So pre would be, what is happening with waste generated on site, and also sequestering the problematic plastic in those areas or cities, and then also post construction. I'll introduce the bag that builds shortly, but how can CRDC and the bag that builds help sequester plastic going forward in that development? Yeah, so on this slide you can see, one project managed to save 283 tons of natural aggregate being mined by using a Resonate. And yeah, as I mentioned, it's also now going into asphalt, so being used in roads, being used in potholes, and it can also be used in the likes of pavements and driveway construction. So there's quite a lot of applications for it. These are just some test results, and I think Mark and the team will share this presentation afterwards if you'd like it, and you can take a look through more of the technical test results and aspects. Just a nice feather in our caps is actually to have Resonate indirectly mentioned in the City of Cape Town's for road and stormwater. And in the top of the second paragraph, you can see the hybrid mineral polymer eco aggregates being mentioned. So now it is allowed to be used in projects across the city without permission, to be gotten by the project managers. And as long as it all tests within the SAN specifications, which is individually tested by the developers and the concrete product suppliers, then they can use it. So it's really a good step forward for us. And just lastly, I wanted to introduce the Bag That Builds, which is a non-profit arm of CRDC. And this is really where I came into CRDC. So it's a kind of a flip on the buyback model. So it's an incentive-based model to tackle the issue of mismanaged and problematic plastic in lower LSM communities through an incentive-based model. So effectively a reclaimer or a household would receive this green bag like you see there, and they can throw any plastic into that bag. And then our partner within that community would take that bag, disperse the incentive to the household or to the reclaimer. They can pull out the recyclables as they wish and sell them on, and then they will obviously be reimbursed for the operational costs of retrieving the bags, sorting, and bringing the leftover plastic through to CRDC, where it will be converted into Resonate. And then eventually that Resonate can be used back into developments in that community. So for me, it was quite an exciting, truly circular solution that I saw that's quite easily implemented into communities, quickly adopted, especially through an incentive-based model. When you've got households that barely have space for one bin, they can now put all the plastic into one bag. It goes off, and they can receive a digital currency or cash directly to buy airtime or spend at a local spaza shop. So really boosting the socioeconomic benefits within that community. Just some of our partners where we rolled out this trial in Cape Town for, I think it was about 18 months, with funding from the Alliance to End Plastic Waste. But you can see a variety of partners that we worked with across Cape Metropole to achieve this. And we managed to capture over 270 tons in about 18 months, which has gone into Resonate, and a lot of that Resonate is now going into the bus lane extensions in Mitchell's Plain. So it's quite nice to see that happening. Sorry, this presentation's clicking through a whole lot of images, and you can see some of the metrics there. So thank you. That's the end of the presentation, and I'm more than happy to answer further questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much, George, for sharing the great work that you guys are doing. And there was a question, in fact, asked by Dolores, and that's one that I also have in mind because I have a business where I bottle products. And what goes through my mind is like, how do I get the plastics to you? What happens to the plastic after, stop sharing? What happens to my plastic like, how can I get it to you? Like, because I want to make sure that it goes into this amazing work. And do you have centers, buyback centers in Johannesburg area? Yeah, and how do we get involved? If not, how do people get involved?
Yeah, so just to answer the Johannesburg question, we are in pretty advanced talks with some role players to potentially have a plant up in Midrand. I don't want to put a timeline on it because it can be difficult, but yeah, we're really pushing to have it within the next 6 to 12 months. And it seems like East London is also going to launch fairly soon. Yeah, don't want to put a timeline there, but yeah, our aim is to have plants up nationally and various plants even within big metros. So I think in Cape Town, I think we calculated, I can't remember, it was 3 or 5 of our plants would be able to take in most of Cape Town's waste plastic materials, and I think it was 25 plants nationally would be able to handle the waste plastic generated around the country. So it's, yeah, quite a nice, big, scalable, high volume solution, especially when you look at the volume and weight that the concrete industry works versus the plastic industry. It absolutely dwarfs the plastic industry. I think our founder in Costa Rica did a calculation that if they were able to put in 2.6% of resonate into a concrete product globally, so if it was adopted globally as a standard practice to include resonate, we'd be able to sequester all of the excess plastic waste globally into concrete products. So it's small percentages, big wins. Yeah, and then to how you can get involved, the Bag That Builds is probably the best way to get involved locally. Yeah, we are busy raising funds to relaunch the Bag That Builds as a full scale project here in Cape Town. But yeah, you're welcome to get a hold of me, especially if it's post-industrial waste and so on. Or speak to your local recycling or waste management company to get hold of us. That's also a good way.
Perfect. Thank you for that. That was a clear, directive question of how we can get involved. There was also a question asked by Abdulaziz. I mean, Abdulaziz, would you like to unmute and just ask the question, because these sessions are really just want people to want to hear the voices.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, you can hear you.
Okay, hi there. I'm the owner of Conexa. We do plastic recycling as well as compounding in Dubai as well as in Riyadh. So I just wanted to know something. From what I've seen, you are downsizing, or what do you call it? You are losing the value of the plastics by making components into cement. So my question is, how do you ensure that the new form of this plastic is what you call it, not another waste in the future? Can it be recycled again and again and again?
Yeah. So on your first point, I wouldn't say it's being downvalued, especially the more problematic or difficult to recycle streams. Often when we get highly recycled streams at our plant, we actually sell it off back into traditional recycling. It's more the waste products that you can't recycle or reuse. And based on the life cycle assessments, we're going to do one locally, but in Costa Rica and Mexico, they ran life cycle assessments. And one of which was our product shows a far lower carbon footprint than incineration. It's almost carbon negative, the plant in Costa Rica. And secondly, the end of life, there really isn't one. So, even with your PET, can only be recycled 7 or 8 times. And if 15, 17% of that PET is being recycled what happens, you know, in the second or third time? So you really are there, you're losing it into the environment or landfills, where with our aggregate, it's already chemically and mechanically bonded to the concrete. So if you need to demolish a house or a building in 50 years, 100 years time, simply grind that up and use it as a recycled aggregate into different parts of the construction process. So yeah, I hope that answers your question. We're not a glorified or kicking the can down the road landfill, which some people might assume.
Well done.
Thank you. One more question, if I may. One more question. Have you ever tried this material in an earthquake zone, perhaps? How does it perform in an earthquake zone? For example, I'm originally Turkish, and we are in an earthquake zone. So constantly we are building new buildings. And so, yeah.
Yeah, great question. My limited understanding would say, well, the products are being individually tested by the concrete product manufacturers, by independent testing laboratories. So they need to pass the local standards already. And I'm going to assume that those standards take events such as earthquakes and high impact into account. I actually see our CEO, Abraham's got his hand raised. He's a civil engineer, and he might be able to answer that question more technically for me.
You can go ahead, Abraham.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, I think to add to what George said was, you know, in South Africa, as an example, all concrete products that's manufactured with a percentage of resonate is still tested within the required SAN specification. That will be exactly the same in the US according to the ASTM standards, and would be similar in any country. So the design of those concrete elements, if it's structural, will remain exactly the same. What we also do recommend that on your, if it's in a structural application, only to replace 2.5% of the fine aggregate. So it's really a very small percentage and will not have any impact on the structural integrity of those elements. In your non-structural applications, like for instance, curbs, channels, bricks for walls and so forth, which is not structural, you can go high as 10, 15%. And in things like, for instance, paving, once again, you can go up to 10%. Even though structural, because according to our test, the compressive strength and tensile strength of those bricks are still within the required specification. In South Africa, the SAN specification. And we've done microplastic release testing through heavy vehicle abrasion testing, which also resulted or gave us results of no microplastic release. So definitely it will be according to the specification that's required for that country.
Thanks.
Thank you so much for that, Abraham, and I hope that answers your question, Abdul. And I just want to hand over to Genevieve as she had. Sorry, you wanted to say, Abdul?
No. Thank you. It was a perfect answer. Thank you.
More than welcome. Thank you for raising that question. And Genevieve, you can take the last question. I saw you were clapping your hands for Abraham. Maybe you touched on something that you were also thinking about. But over to you. Still have a question, Genevieve?
I do. Sorry, I was just unmuting.
Okay.
Thank you, first of all, just so much for hosting this. I'm very happy to see it happening. Very excited to see the incentive sort of behavioral aspect coming into it. My challenges with reuse, you know, it does boil down to a resource, a lack of understanding of resource management. I think we have too much stuff. We just don't know how to allocate it properly and use it back into the system. And so my question is twofold. And one is, in terms of scaling and sort of trying to get this to mass adoption, we see how it, for many reasons, works in informal sort of communities where we, you know, sort of rely on reciprocity more. And I love that. But when we're talking to scale, we know we need to make this as convenient as possible, or more convenient than what is traditionally there, even perhaps. And so I'm interested in some of the challenges that you might have come across in the face of that sphere, that sort of scaling mass job adoption, maybe approaching people like SPA with the rural hub. Like, what is the pushback there? And then just also interested if you've considered or gone into, which I'm sure you have, the RVMs and why is the plastic bag working, and can you share any insight into or the bag that you use to recycle, any insight into that journey and the learnings that you've had around that, please?
Okay. Sorry, but I'll just need some clarity on your second question, but I'll just answer the first. So in terms of adoption from a what I would call a feedstock perspective, or a waste, receiving the waste perspective, obviously, the bag that builds is a very good mechanism to get post-consumer waste almost directly from source in these communities. From a commercial perspective, we don't have too much of a problem, really. A lot of the waste management companies are looking for solutions like this on behalf of their clients to get their clients to, net zero or as close to they can, especially on the plastic side. So not too many barriers in terms of getting the material in to our plants, but from on the other side, the offtake of the resin, there's a lot of barriers. Primarily being a perceived premium on concrete products, although what we're finding based on a lot of the tests that we've done with local partners is possibly I think it's about a 0.25%, between 1.15, 0.25% price increase on a project if they're to use. So it's really quite minimal, but these guys are obviously working on scale and they're looking to save in every way they can. So you're finding it's the sort of larger developers and the blue chip developers are more amenable to this, to specify it into their projects, because they're obviously accessing green bonds and green financing for their projects. So getting an improved Green Star rating will be of value to them. But getting the smaller projects on board, if there's any hint of a price premium, then yeah. And then I could spend hours talking about getting government to specify it and so on.
But works in governments.
That's a journey in itself. But we are having some success. I think it was about getting the engineers over the line initially, just getting the actual engineers and project managers to understand and appreciate the product, sorry. But then it's about getting the higher ups to specify, resonate into these capital projects whereby they can, your roads and stormwater department can really assist your solid waste department in tackling the problematic, plastic waste issues that they're facing, from illegal dumping to plastic leaking into the environment, to landfills that are going to close in a couple of years. So just getting those departments and those heads to talk to one another, get them on the same page, whether it's political pressure or whether it's bureaucratic pressure, is really that's really where our focus has been for the last I'd say years, to get the bigger players, because we need those bigger projects to really take us on board. You would have seen Waterfront in the slides. It was on board. They've specified it, but again, following up and making sure that they are actually getting Resonate into the new projects that are happening there is that's a whole nother story. But then sorry, your second question up, just the RVM acronym I wasn't familiar with.
So reverse recycling machines.
Oh, right. Yeah. We haven't actually dealt with reverse recycling machines as such. The Baguette builds, we dealt with really on the ground operating entities that are already, in the communities where we can make a big difference, and where we need to make a big difference. So, happy to work with the RVM companies to have it in retail stores again. They probably are now are accepting, a PET bottle with the lid because it can be recycled, but they won't take in a chip packet because there's nothing they can do with it, or e-waste or something. There's certain elements from e-waste that can't be recycled, and there's a lot that can. But yeah, if you look across the sectors, the automobile sectors, we get so many car bumpers. It's crazy. And those are the sort of things you see on the side of the river getting dumped by, workshops and so on. So yeah, the journey to get the bag that builds into the communities, the education, there's lovely on-ramps that you can do, especially partnering with schools, partnering with local civic organizations. Personally, I've worked with a lot of soup kitchens in the past, so introducing recycling and circular thinking into the soup kitchens, a way of generating funds for gas, for rice, for anything that they need, and thereby expanding the project within the community, because these soup kitchens are hubs of hope. They're not just somewhere to get food, but they're somewhere to find solutions, find a job, talk about things. So yeah, so the bag that builds really proliferated.
Resource management thing and seeing it for all its opportunity. I'm such a fan. Thank you, George.
Thank you.
I'm just going to jump in here because we're 10 minutes over, but I think I see that Raphael put their hand up. But just before that, Suzanne asked if, she would like to know if waste tires can also be used in the aggregate mix. And then we'll get the question from Raphael.
Unfortunately not. I would love to, but it's one of the few, we get it asked quite often, but unfortunately rubber just doesn't work, or rubber-based products don't work in our process. Funnily enough, flip-flops and Crocs do, because there's some different substrates in there, but tires, unfortunately not.
Well, thank you for that. So Raphael, please.
Yeah, thank you very much, everyone, and George, thank you very much for presenting that project. I think this is a very, very great project. I just wanted to maybe give you a little bit of insights into the waste management side of it, because my background is actually also waste management, and I think from that perspective of what you presented, I think it's great, but I think it's also the question of that secondary raw material markets, right, and also the collection side of it, basically. And so if you allow me, I would basically just send 2 links into the chat section, maybe, because we in Austria have built a circular, fully automated resource park, basically, where you have the possibility of actually having a collection point, right, where you can basically then collect like 14 different material streams. You can weigh them. You can also, for example, tokenize them, so you can also integrate that these data points, or the data management side of it as well. So if that's okay, I would just post 2 links. This is a plan, like a blueprint for a fully scalable operational resource park that one can use across the globe, basically. Just wanted to give that as well and provide you with that information as well. But other than that, really, really great work. So thank you very much.
Thank you so much for that, Raphael. I will definitely share those links with everyone in the meeting as well. So don't worry, you will definitely get it as well. And then there's also a question here from Herschel, and I think that will be the last one, because I know that we're way over time. But I just think this topic is just so insightful, and the work that George is doing is so impactful that people want to really engage more. But Herschel, please ask your question, and then we'll close up the session.
Thank you, Chair. I really appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. And good afternoon, George. Love the work that you guys are doing. Yeah. I'm from Polyco, and I would like to actually come and visit your premises soon if you would allow me.
Yeah.
But just on the topic of circularity, George, would you consider your model or rather treatment of plastic waste to be more linear rather than circular?
Well, I think it's a good question. I think at the end of the day, it really comes to, effectively, it could be circular in the sense of if you're capturing waste in a community, repurposing it and helping build homes and roads back into that community. But for me, the real value lies in the obviously the sequestration of that waste and the longevity of the product that's being produced with it. So, you know, if you go speak to a lot of the brick and block manufacturers and construction material companies, especially here in Cape Town, a lot of them have a very high recycled content in their products. So they require that recycled content. So if it's builder's rubble, whether it's something like ours can be quite easily recycled. So in my opinion, it is still continuing in terms of circularity, but I also just appreciate the fact that, you know, if you go and recycle into a bottle and then that bottle gets improperly discarded, you know, you've lost your circle. If that bottle gets recycled, it can only be recycled a couple of times, say for the next 5 years. What we're helping to do is get all the different streams sequestered into a project that can last 50, 100, 200 years and potentially further on. So for me, the circle or the wheel just gets bigger. I don't know if that answers your question, but that's my personal feeling.
I hear
Oh,
you.
it does. And thank you, George. But I definitely want to come and visit your premises.
Yeah, please do. And yeah, bring a delegation. More than happy to show you guys around.
It's beautiful. And George, thank you so much for making the time to be here with us. And thank you so much to the community to sharing the insights and asking those questions. And we will definitely send the recording of this event as well as an email with some of the links that were shared here earlier by Raphael. But thank you so much all for being part of the session. Have a great afternoon further.
Magic. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers,
Well done.
all.
All the best.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hey guys.
Bye-bye.
Bye.